I'm so pleased with how my project turned out, I have to share. Today we're drawing some Vinland Saga in color and pen and ink. This is actually my third set of Arrtx acrylic markers. I love them. So when they offered to sponsor a video, I said yes, all a yes, to their 120 anime marker set. Whether you're just curious or serious about using these for your projects, there are 6 main things you'll want to know. Because when you first open the box, it's like candy, the impulse to dive in, but trust me, there is merit to a planful approach. Sure, it's exciting to experiment, but also great to see results for your efforts, which means a worthwhile first step is to get organized. Tip number 1, label the colors. For a dynamic, painterly effect with vibrant colors, not mud, it helps to understand basic color theory. But even if you don't, you can trust that the Arrtx system makes it easy to harmonize your color choices. That means the color science is already done for you and that the numbering system matters. That's what these stickers are for. The pens are standing vertically in the holder and numbered at the top. But when in use, they're lying flat on the table, so these stickers become a necessity. Tip 2. Make a color chart. Yeah, the color chart is also a must. 1 is so you can place the pens back in the holder in the same order. 2 is so you have a quick reference of what the colors look like all together. And 3, so that you can more accurately match the colors to your subject, because the color on the cap and the color on the sticky label is not how the color comes out. So the chart you'll make becomes your best guide. Tip number 3, make a color wheel. A color wheel is not a must, but it helps for creating rich midtones, realistic shadows, and luminous highlights. It's a quick guide to your complementary colors. For example, the sphere is blue. Blue is my local color, the color of the subject. The most common method is to paint the core shadow in a darker blue as an underlayer, and it looks nice. My favorite method is to paint that underlayer orange. Orange is the complement of blue, sitting opposite on the color wheel. Let's do it again. Here, red is the local color, and I'm using the common method, building the core shadow using analogous colors. So that's the colors sitting next to each other on the color wheel for the different tones. So a little bit lighter and a little bit darker from the local color. Or the complementary method. To make this green darker, I'm using purple as the core shadow underlayer. Either method works depending on the effect you want, and I use both. The key thing is that the markers are numbered in the analogous format, so side by side on the color wheel, which is good to know. Let's put this into practice with the Vinland Saga studies. The next hot tip is to pick your color scheme section by section. So tip number 4 is color scheming. Here, I'm using yellow as the local color for Thorfinn's hair. Then a shade darker of that yellow for the layer underneath. And for the cast shadow, an underlayer of that yellow's complementary purple. Then a shade darker of that same purple to create more depth. Finishing with 2 shades of brighter yellows for the highlights. As you can see, the color application is opaque, similar to gouache, which allows for layering light over dark. Tip number 5, wet on wet. Here's my color scheme for the cape, Thorfinn's cape. Brown is the local color. Brown is a mix of reds and blues, which puts brown in the purple family, making green its complementary color. I'm therefore using a bright green for the highlights. It's best to work fast so you can blend the colors while they're wet. So we're working wet on wet. The markers are super quick drying. It's great for layering, but if you want a soft, gradual edge, then you'll want to blend while the ink is wet. I've seen other artists use a wet brush, but I prefer just using the markers to blend. Now that the cape is done, I move on to another section of the drawing and a new color scheme. So to stay organized, my color protocol is always the same. I pick one local color, the color next to it, lighter and darker, and a set of complementary colors for the highlights and shadows. Otherwise, if you just keep pulling random colors in piles on your table and layer without minding the values, you'll likely create mud. Again, because it's an opaque medium, it's up to you whether to start with the highlights or the shadows. You can also go dark on dark, like this blood-splattered battle axe. The brush on these is nice. It's a sponge tip with non-toxic, odorless, water-based ink. You don't have to pump or shake, just use the markers like a regular brush pen. I hold it vertically here to use the tip for details and thinner lines, and the belly of the brush for even coverage when blocking larger areas of color, like I did in the background. Tip number 6 is it's mixed medium friendly. Again, because it's an opaque medium, I do the black line work last. Here, I'm using a traditional manga-specific dip pen and India ink. I've also used these markers in combination with fine liners, brush pens, colored pencils, and watercolor. Apparently, you can apply this medium on practically any surface, even fabric or wood. Well, those were the main tips that I recommend for using the Arrtx acrylic markers. Stick around for more coloring and inking techniques. I'm continuing with my Vinland Saga projects. I want my sketch dark to show through. This time I'm starting with the background, layering back to front on the picture plane. The previous study had a purplish backlight. This one is pink and minty green. And I'm carrying those same tones into the character for the reflections and highlights. I'm impressed by how many skin tones come with the 120 set, so it makes it easier to match my reference. Pink is a lighter tint of red, and its complementary is green. I'll use that for the shadow underlayer. This time I want that layer of green to be completely dry before covering it with the skin tone. I don't want the green to lift and blend into the top layer. I'm only after the shading effect. Using a lighter shade of that skin tone for the highlights in the back of his neck, and while that's drying, I went ahead and did the highlights and shadow underlayers in his hair. Then layered the yellow local color on top of the green and below the highlights. Now working with the darker tone of that same green, and while it's wet, blending it with a darker shade of yellow. For his tunic, I'm layering a golden camel color on top of a blue-green and continuing with the same method throughout for his tunic. The inside of his tunic is black in the reference, which I create by blending a dark orange with blue-purple, which I find is more harmonious and less jarring than just straight black. This set of markers also has a wide range of warm and cool grays, which pair nicely with cool blues for the sword, using directional strokes to reinforce the illusion of form on the blade. Then using that minty green again here to emphasize the backlighting. And now for the ink application. With the G-nib and India ink, I started with the eye, then top to bottom on the picture plane. I'm using the classic manga technique, varying the thickness of the strokes. Thin indicates further in the background, and bold is closer to the viewer. Then adding finishing touches with some rendering in the face and folds of his tunic. Lastly, adjusting the highlights to balance out the values in the overall piece. I've picked this final illustration for its epic composition, plus the color arrangement is perfect for today's medium, and to show you how it plays nicely with watercolor. This is a mixed media paper that I taped down for a light background wash. Just a very subtle two-tone to suggest an army in the background and establish the scene. You can see I've picked my color scheme for this section of the illustration, and I'll be following the same sequence of steps for the remainder of this project. That's all I had to share today. I'm really pleased with how this final piece turned out, and you're welcome to stay and watch it unfold to the end. If you were here more for a master study of Makoto Yukimura's work, I've got one planned in the new year, so be sure to keep an eye out for that. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, give it a like. Let me know in the comments if you've used these specific markers before or if you have any questions. There's product links in the description and also to my blog where you'll find additional resources. Thank you, Arrtx, for the fun collaboration today, and I'll see you all in the next one. Thanks for watching.